Chelsea, thanks so much for coming out and doing this today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay.
I love hotels.
Do you have some sort of issue with hotels?
No, I love them. I love hotels.
Okay.
I'm being sincere.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
Okay, well, just know that moving forward, I will be sincere.
Completely sincere.
Yes.
That's good in an interview. Yeah, we're really excited for this because we think, we've obviously been following your career from when you were a best-selling author, when you were doing the E-show. This new chapter in your career, is it still new if we started in May?
It's new. We launched the show May 11th, so yes, I would say it's new. 3 months.
Okay, that's a little more than that, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Well, you're Jewish, so you're probably better at math. I'm only a half a Jew.
I didn't want them to know.
I know, but it's a dead giveaway.
Oh, damn.
With a name like Andrew.
Okay. Yeah. So, what has this Netflix experience been like for you? Was it what you were expecting?
It is what I was expecting now. I mean, launching a show always has its difficulties and it's always challenging, and I think that's what I'm attracted to, being challenged and being uncomfortable. I like that experience. I like to be creative, and I like to really kind of flex muscles I don't necessarily have and try to create them. And for me, it was really important to do something different. I did the documentary series called Chelsea Does for Netflix first, and then we launched the show months after, 4 or 5 months after that, I think debuted in January. And I wanted that to kind of inform the kind of show that I really was excited about doing, that I was really I wanted to break the format. I didn't want to do a format where I got up and I did a monologue every night, and then I sat down and did a guest, and then a band, but I just wanted it to be different. And it is different. You can turn it on, you can see a dinner party about religion, or you can turn it on and it's a whole episode about me in Russia.
Right.
Or you can turn it on and it's in studio and I have regular guests on. But I want it to be informative and I wanted it to be entertaining, and I don't think the two should preclude each other. When
I listen to this, I'm wondering if you think that you could have done anything like you're doing now on a typical TV network, broadcast, cable. Because when I think of TV and late night or talk shows, it's very regimented, the exact opposite of what you seem to be doing.
Yeah, and also, well, yes, and my feeling is, who decided that was the format? I mean, why does that have to be the format? There are 8 shows like that. Why can't we break the mold? Why can't I have my dog on my show? Yes, I can. And Netflix is different because, I don't know if you could do it anywhere. Netflix is unique because they really give creative license to people, and they want you to they don't let you fail.
Right.
They really want to make you do what you're good at doing. Even if they don't fully understand your vision, they're very supportive of it. And, I'm always kind of up for being criticized until I get my groove on. So I don't care that much about first reactions or what people think about, oh, what is she trying to do? I don't give a shit about any of that. I know what I'm going to do, and that I'm going to end up getting my train on the track. So to have a kind of studio, so to speak, or a network behind you that supports that is really all I cared about. And obviously, I think in the coming years, networks will catch up to that kind of creative license. But it's not happening now. I didn't feel, and maybe they'll do it sooner than later, but I didn't feel like that was a place, one of those networks was a place where I could do that. I felt like I would be stepping into somebody else's shoes, and they would expect that kind of show, but with my face on it. And I don't want to do anybody else's job.
So when you say, though, you get creative license, what really is the Netflix experience like? The typical, if you were at E or you were at NBC, you would have regular interactions with a network giving you notes, telling you things maybe you don't want to hear. How does that contrast with, say, the Netflix experience?
Netflix doesn't give you specific notes. They just give you general notes. They'll be like, we like when you do that. And so it's kind of like positive reinforcement. And they're not like, we hate that. They've never said that. They don't say, strike that, take it out. I have to beg Ted for feedback. I'll be like, what do you like and what don't you like? He's like, just keep doing your thing. And I'm like, can we get more specific? And then I'm like, why do I need to be codependent? Who gives a shit? I'll just do what I want anyway. I don't know why I never wanted any feedback before. And now that you don't get it, I'm like, where's my boyfriend? So
you mentioned Ted Sarandos, who's the head of programming in Netflix. He's kind of famous for bringing sort of the data approach to programming. He listens with, Netflix great technology, the algorithms and all that, to what works and what doesn't. Are you exposed to any of that?
Very slightly. I mean, they just, they're just getting into the talk show game, so they like the pickup. You do it like, for instance, yesterday we had Stranger Things cast on. Obviously, that's a huge. Everybody's picking that up because we had Barb come on, who's the girl that was in the upside down world or whatever and never reappeared in the series, and we had her come out and surprise the kids. They like the attention that it garners. I'm sure they're not opposed to that. They're very happy about that when we have a guest on and it gets picked up by 85 news outlets and they're quotes. That's always a good indication that people are watching and that it's getting talked about, and like the water cooler thing. But as far as like specific data, I don't think they trust me enough to give me that information. It's just obviously, we're doing another season. We're doing well. I don't know, and I don't know the specifics. Like, what?
They tell you you're doing well. Meaning, are they showing you ratings? Are they showing you like?
No, they don't do that. They'll just be like, oh, I loved when you opened the show with the Sumner Redstone explainer, and I'm like, okay. We'll do another one, I guess. So, no, they don't give me specifics.
Well, in contrast to maybe your E days where you probably were exposed to the numbers a lot, is this a good or bad thing? Maybe you liked getting a sense of the numbers?
Well, it's just kind of like social media. I think if you check things all the time, then if you create a bad habit with that or a bad relationship with it. So I do get most of my feedback now from social media, whereas when I was at E, I got the ratings every day. Here, I don't get the ratings every day, and I feel like I prefer that. I think when I started, I would have said something different. Now that I'm comfortable and I'm in my groove and I feel like I know what I'm doing, I don't necessarily need that kind of feedback. Right. And they're a different culture, Netflix, and you have to respect that. I mean, I'm with them, so I don't want to fight with them. Not right away.
Give it some time. So you say you pay attention to social media, meaning you just sort of comb through people.
I go through Twitter, through Facebook. We release a lot of our stuff digitally, like for that different outlets, Instagram, and then we have a show, the Chelsea Show part, and then my personal, and we kind of try to marry the two when it makes sense. So I'm much more involved in social media than I ever have been, and I just wrapped my head around it in a way that I felt. Because it's gross, obviously. Social media is disgusting, and when they told me I had to have a Snapchat account, I'm like, what? I can't possibly do that. And then you wake up 2 days later and you're just filming yourself. And you're like, I guess I slipped into that more easily than I thought I would. But I wrapped my head around it, and my feeling is always to just kind of don't bitch and moan about what you're doing, just do it and get a fucking positive attitude about it. Sorry to use that kind of language around you. Yeah, I know you've never heard that before. So I just try to do something, I try to make it like this is part of my day and this is, I'm going to do it. And then you start to, I think if you fake things long enough, they become your reality anyway.
Reality in the sense that now...
I believe I'm blonde.
But in other words, is there a part of you that's like, oh, the Snapchat thing's kind of cool, it's a different aesthetic, or you're just like, look, I got to do this. This is what helps the...
No, now I'm into it. I like it. I rap on Snapchat. I have a persona for Snapchat. They told me I have to do Instagram stories. I'm like, oh my God, another thing? And then I came up with this thing that I call shortcuts, where I give people ridiculous advice on how to have shortcuts in the kitchen at home. I've never cooked anything in my life. So I just kind of create different areas that will amuse me, because I have to be interested in what I'm doing in order for it to be palatable for anybody else, least of all my fans. And I want to be. I want to be entertaining.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that it might be good for you to be aggressive as you are on social media is Netflix is this behind the paywall world. I mean, were you concerned that if you were just available there, it wouldn't give you, say, the exposure you had while you were on television?
Well, that's an argument, actually. I mean, there is a side of that because, when you're on Netflix, there aren't commercials. They're not buying ad space here or there and that. There's a marketing campaign and they market things when they're up on the service.
Right.
So there's not like a long lead, like when you see people promoting a movie a month in advance, 3 weeks in advance. It's not that with Netflix, because they don't care when people watch it. They just care that they find it eventually.
Okay.
So that's more of their scheme. I mean, scheme. That's their scheme. That's more of their kind of feeling, is they want people to catch on whenever they catch on.
Right.
And then obviously, for me, my show's a little bit more topical, but we made sure in the beginning, when we launched the show, that can't be, that can't be the only thing. It can't be so topical that we're going to be worried if people watch it 4 weeks later, or if they find it. And what they have told me is that a lot of people, found the show a month in and went back and watched the very first episodes. That doesn't make me happy, because I hated the first month of episodes. But then you throw in the towel. You're like, whatever, I don't care. It's fine. They can see the kind of arc of things. And so they want that available. Like we were doing 90 episodes. So I'm like, do we need 90 episodes of me up on a streaming service? How is anybody even supposed to shuffle through that?
Right.
But their argument is, we don't care. We want it to all be available. So if people want to get into the groove of it and watch it from the very beginning, that they have the opportunity to do that. So it's a different business model altogether than anything we're used to.
Well, I wondered, as you did your show, whether you were going to lean away from the topical, because if the way Netflix works is people can just sort of binge on episodes that are a month old, maybe it's not so good to lean on the headlines when people will be watching that. A lot of people will be watching it a month from now. Do you think like that at all, or you're just like, I'm doing topical, that's it?
Not really. I just do. You can't avoid what's happening, especially with this election cycle and with everything that's going on. You want to be. It's not topical like my show used to be. I'm not commenting on day-to-day events. We're kind of commenting. I mean, there are instances where we are, but we don't make a concerted effort at my show to not touch upon this because somebody might watch it 3 weeks from now. It's like, you're going to watch it when you're going to watch it. I'm going to do the show that I'm going to do, and that's pretty much it. I don't really like to overthink things like that, because I think who really cares in the end? You're putting out a product that you hope is high quality, that is attracting the right kind of audience, and you want them to respond to that, and that matters to me a lot. But as far as topicality, if I watch Bill Maher at the end of the week talking about something that happened on Monday, I'm not, I'm not, whatever.
Oh God, I can't. This
yeah,
is
I'm
so
not like,
sad.
what are they talking about? Yeah.
Speaking of topicality, though, I mean, this must be, when you're a talk show host, this crazy election cycle, I mean, does it get better than this?
No. No, I mean, what are we going to do with Donald Trump when he's gone? I mean,
Do you think he's actually going to go away? People say that he'll just pivot to being a television personality. He'll get his own network. Maybe he'll be on Netflix with you. Who
I don't
knows?
know that I want him to go away. I mean, it's just kind of great to have a person like that represent everything that's wrong in the world.
Arch
I
villain.
think it's a good, there's always a good thing to look at somebody and be like, that's the worst thing that could happen. And I think we should keep him in the spotlight,
Okay.
Not as president, obviously, but, as The Apprentice or whatever that show is called. The Apprentice, that's what it's called, FYI.
I know, now I know. The new Apprentice is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I
FYI.
know, two assholes. Only in Hollywood do men get rewarded. Not only in Hollywood, but in today's world does a man get rewarded for terrible, terrible behavior. It's disgusting. But I'll be watching.
I saw on social media you were commenting on the latest at Fox News and Roger
I love that
Ailes.
story. And only in America, or not only in America, again, only in this day and age, would a man who gets fired for sexually harassing numerous women, it would be totally understood that he would be working with Donald Trump on his campaign for the presidency. In what world is that all right? Yes, we're going to hire Roger Ailes. He's great, isn't he? It's unreal.
What, in your experience of the industry, is Roger Ailes just a outlier, or is there a sexism problem in the TV industry?
There is sexism, absolutely. Listen, I don't have a problem with it because nobody would say that to my face. I won't, but I've never had to deal with sexism in a way that many other women have. I think being not because I've ruled it out in any way, I think being a stand-up comedian, you're always you're always the only girl, so you kind of stand out. In my experience, it's always been a positive thing, and that certainly isn't everybody's experience. So I liked standing out. You know, whether it was sexism or not, it worked for me. I wasn't sexually harassed by people. You know, the worst thing that happened to me was people who said they slept with me. And I was like, don't worry, I'd be the first to announce it. So that didn't happen. And people know me to kind of reveal that stuff. So, but Roger Ailes, of course, you know, there are women who are working for the head of a corporation. Of course they're scared. Of course they're not going to report him right away. But I like when one girl comes out that everybody else, you know, I think if you're a powerful woman and that happens to you, you have a responsibility to tell everybody you know about it and get public, because you're helping. If it happened to you, it probably happened to 50, 100 other women.
Well, do you think what Gretchen Carlson did will maybe make change? Women will be more likely in this situation to speak out?
I mean, you know, a little bit, probably. It takes a little bit of that to happen, you know, a lot to make a big change.
Well,
But it steers the ship a little bit to 2 degrees Gesundheit. It steers it in the right way, you know?
Okay.
You know that saying, like, you can't steer a ship, you can't change the course of direction 45 degrees at one point. You have to change it little increments at a time, and that's definitely true. You know, women deal with a bunch of bullshit that they shouldn't have to deal with. It's annoying to have to continue to talk about it, quite frankly.
Then let's switch the subject.
Well, okay.
All right, so back to your show. Talk about, in terms of your guests, what have been sort of some of the favorites that you've had since May?
Let's see. What I really wanted to do with this show was be able to talk about serious stuff, like important stuff, not just your movie. Like Patricia Arquette, today's taping, we did Patricia Arquette and we did Aisha Tyler and we did some other stuff that didn't involve celebrities. But Patricia Arquette had a lot. She did Equal Means Equal, this new documentary that's out. She's involved with it. So she was able to talk about it in a really intelligent way that wasn't boring. We had a fun conversation about important stuff, gender disparity, you know, and that to me is important, because if I'm going to have a soapbox and you're going to work in this medium, all that matters to me is to do something that's a little bit more responsible and compelling and be interesting about it. Just don't do what everybody else is doing, and don't think of myself as, you know, I'm not an actress, so I'm not going to act like one. You know, I'd rather do something that's going to maybe make a difference in a little way, raise money for good causes, help people highlight the issues that they care about. You know, Aisha Tyler's a great example of somebody who's got a big, huge career. She's got like 18 things going on. I didn't know that, and I'm friends with her. I didn't know that till I sat down with her. I think it's empowering for women. You know, you don't want to get too heavy-handed with the female empowerment, and that's all you talk about. That's not what I want to accomplish either. I want to have men, you know, on the show talking about the things that are important to them. I want everybody on the show. I want to get the right person elected. I want to have that kind of influence. I partnered up with Rock the Vote, and we have, you know, record-breaking numbers of there's like a celebrity partnership because of being able to promote that on my show. That stuff matters to me. I'm 41. I'm not a baby anymore, Andrew.
I didn't say you were. My God. When you're talking about guests, though, I wonder, talk shows always seem to, at certain points in the TV industry, it gets very competitive for guests.
Yes.
Do you feel that sense right now?
Oh, yeah, they're all assholes about it. I mean,
How
they're like,
so?
you can't go on Chelsea first, she's new. I'm like, I was on TV for 8 years, I'm just back. Give me my guests. But, you know, that's just par for the course, and I don't take that seriously. I don't consider myself competing with those guys. I'm in a completely different medium as far as I'm concerned. So if somebody's competing with you and you're not competing with them, then who's really winning?
Could you see a time when, whether maybe it's on Netflix itself or Amazon, Hulu, you'll start to see other talk show hosts come into this space?
I hope so. I mean, everybody should, I hope they're doing something different than what I'm doing and what everybody else is doing. I hope people are creative enough to think of outside the box and not create a show around a regimented format that you've seen for almost 70 years. It doesn't have to be that way. And the same applies to sitcoms or single cameras or whatever, you know, dramas. You can do things differently. You just have to have a little bit of, you know, a couple of Roger Ailes hamburger balls. Sorry, I can't stop thinking about him.
Look it up, Google it. Do you mix with a lot of talent personally, professionally. Are they very curious about Netflix and streaming and what's that like versus traditional?
No. No, nobody really, none of my friends really talk about that.
Well, because they look at the show that you do and it's like, whether it would be on E or Netflix, it's just a show?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't like to sit around talking about my job at night. So, and most of my friends don't sit around talking about their movies either, you know? We just don't. I mean, I'm not friends with those types of people. And, you know, that's not to say you're not allowed to talk about your job. You absolutely are. But work is for work, and when I get home, it's about something else.
Okay. I hope I wasn't wrong to take this line of questioning.
Well, are you hitting on me right now?
My God. I'm a married man.
Well, we're in Hollywood. It doesn't really matter. I can't afford to get sexually harassed again. I just told you. Actually, to be quite honest, in my career, I've done sexual harassing more than I've been sexually harassed. And that should be out in the open.
Okay. I'm going to assume you're kidding, because otherwise...
Okay, well, assume whatever you want.
Trying to keep composure. Back to the show. Do you have sort of like a wish list in terms of like the big gets for, you know, the guests you want to see on the show?
What I'm really loving is how much I've learned about politics. Like, I've learned so much since my show began. I finally understand what a superdelegate is. I understand the way a vote, like legislation is passed. I get it. I've sat down at the DNC with David Axelrod, who's like one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. Mm-hmm. I get politics, and I'm more thirsty about it than I ever have been before. Mm-hmm. So for me, interviewing politicians, like, you know, we've had Barbara Boxer on, Nancy Pelosi, and, you know, the ex-president of Mexico, whether they're somebody I admire in that space or not, they're smarter than me, and I'm always interested in talking to anybody that's smarter than me. I mean, it's a big group, but I don't know enough about politics, so I'm constantly eager to learn about that. So for me, I would love to sit down with like a Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, you know, with Bill Clinton in front of a live audience for protection, and Barack Obama privately. But those things are really, I think, like the one thing I learned when I was at the DNC, I got to talk to a lot of people, the Reverend Leah Daughtry, who put together the DNC, the first African-American woman who's headed up 2 DNCs, and people like that, who get into politics for the right reason, for public service. I think in an election like this, you kind of lose sight of all the people who want to do the right thing and want to get, you know, make sure people have health care coverage. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure that our country is mostly graduating from college, you know, and that we're all literate. Those kinds of people remind you of what this country is about, mm-hmm. what the world is about, hopefully. So that kind of stuff gets me. That's when you really think like, oh, you're just devoting all of your time. You know, you look at a campaign like Hillary Clinton, and you can't imagine. I can't even imagine what that entails. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you have to keep your composure at all times when everybody's attacking you all the time, and then people have the audacity to talk about her appearance or that she looks tired, because she is. She's tired. And she's a woman, like a man. You don't sit, I mean, Donald Trump, but he deserves it. You know what I mean? I mean, just everything that goes into it. If you really want to you want to be doing something meaningful if you put yourself through that.
Sure.
You know, they're all a bunch of liars, but they still are trying to do the right thing ultimately, you know?
When I hear you talk about this, though, I'm struck by I can't imagine you talking to these kind of people at an earlier stage in your career when you were at the E and it was more celebrity focused. Do you feel that your fans have sort of evolved with you, or, you know, is there any worry that this is different than what they're used to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's always different. It's an evolvement, and I mean, it's an evolution. But I think if you're scared of that, if you're scared of kind of losing fans, then you're not being authentic, A. Of course I'm going to lose fans, and I'm going to gain fans. And an evolution takes time. You're doing something, I'm doing something different for me, so it takes time for people to get used to that. Mm-hmm. And I'm self-confident enough to know that in the end, it kind of works out the way it's supposed to. And I know this show will be successful because it's the right thing, because I feel good about it. Mm-hmm. I never get up and go, oh God, I can't believe I have to go to work today. You know, I can't believe I have to go back to that place. I don't feel that way. So, and the feedback that I do see, which is social media, you know, Twitter and stuff, makes me, you know, reassures me that the people are paying attention, and, you know, and that will most likely grow over. I mean, it's been 3 or 4 months, so I can only imagine that it will grow, and that, you know, things like that. I'm just so happy I had a lead up, and that this isn't my first show out of the gate.
Sure.
You know, like I had 8 years of experience in doing something along these lines, something a little bit more analogous to what I'm doing, because that experience is invaluable, and for what I want to do and what I want to accomplish.
Okay. Could you see yourself doing this Netflix gig for, you know, years to come? Are you comfortable in this sort of, hey, I'm a talk show host, or are there other things maybe you want to get to?
Well, I did a lot of stuff that I wanted to do when I was at E. I wrote a bunch of books, and I did stand-up tour after stand-up tour back to back to promote those books while I was shooting the show. And I look at all of that time as kind of like the first part of my career, and I look at this as kind of the second part of my career, which is a little bit more adult, obviously not too adult, but I don't want to ever be too much of an adult. But I definitely feel smarter and more accomplished and better about myself and more confident. You know, I feel like there's a strong message in being a single girl that's chosen not to have a family, that's chosen not to be married, and that's chosen my career, and I'm fulfilled by it. I feel like that's a really strong message, and I'm not ever gonna like let that go.
How does it work in terms of with your show and producing it? Different hosts, you know, Stephen Colbert, for instance, you know, for a while ran his show as he hosted it, eventually had to transition that executive producer role to someone else. So how much control do you take on a set every day?
A lot.
Meaning, but you're not the executive, there's other producers.
No, there is another one, yeah, a woman named Sue Murphy, and we do it together.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Have you done that kind of arrangement before?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always gonna have the last say.
Right.
It's called Chelsea.
Your name, I am aware of that. I am aware of that. So in terms of going forward, how many more episodes do you need to do for this first season for Netflix?
I don't even know what episode we're on. So 90. I guess we're probably almost halfway through. I would say we're probably 45 episodes in. And so we'll finish out. I think we wrap in December, and then we go back up for season 2. I'll do some traveling around the world and go and film the kind of stuff that we've inserted into the show. We went to Tokyo, to Mexico, to Russia. You don't need to go there. And then I'll probably go to some places like that. You know, I mean, that's the other great thing that everybody knows about Netflix. You're in 190 countries. You know, that's crazy. That's never been done ever in, you know, in the history of talk shows. It's the first talk show ever to be global. So for me, I try not to forget that.
But what does that mean? In other words, are you thinking to yourself, okay, is this going to work in Latin America? Is this going to work in Europe in terms of humor? Because
well, I mean, they have 26 different languages that the show is inputted into some system that Netflix kind of started for our show to use as a template. And after every day when we're done taping, they put into they feed it into all these different outlets, and they spit out the translation in 26 different languages, and then they feed it into 190 countries. And so there's like a 22-hour or 36-hour turnaround, something.
Right.
So it's an even number, and they turn it around. But I don't think I can be that, you know, mindful. You can't try so hard to appeal to one audience. You know, I know there are spots where we're bigger than others. Latin America's a big spot. Any English-speaking country's a big spot. So all I can do, you can't try and focus. If you focus on one place, you're missing the rest of the world. The only thing you can do, you know, I'm a comedian originally, so the only thing that I know is my point of view, and that's any time I've steered away from that has been a mistake. So, you know, it's a bit narcissistic, but that's the nature of a talk show, I think. It's a little bit narcissistic.
Okay. One last question. Do you feel like you've found the show, or is this something that's still evolving that you're...
Yeah, I feel like I found it.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for coming out and talking all about us.
I'll never forget this day.
Thank you.